Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to this interview with the wonderful Tash Corbin. Now, Natasha is a business coach extraordinaire and just an all-around beautiful human being. And she runs the Heart-Centered Soul-Driven Entrepreneurs Facebook group, which is now over 18,000 members strong. It's crazy. And she's a wonderful business coach, does lots of great one-on-one work. She's also got some fabulous online programs like Launch with Heart, Take Off, Lean Startup School. Have I missed any?
Get with the program.
Get with the program. And
100 Days of Colour.
And 100 Days of Colour. And everybody who works with Natasha raves about her. And she's just incredibly giving and incredibly supportive, especially of women who are starting up businesses, who are, trying to get some momentum, trying to get things going, and perhaps struggling. They're struggling with the financial side of things. They're struggling with the consistency. They're struggling with their niche. And so we're going to cover some of that today. I'm so excited to have you.
Ooh, I'm so excited to see you. I'm so excited that you're doing this. I'm fascinated to hear all of the interviews that you're doing, because I think looking at business through this lens, that fascinates me. So I'm so excited. Subscriber.
Yeah.
Totally.
I'm excited too. I'm excited too, because what I talk about with women is the money piece, is the financial side of things. But there are obviously so many different angles that makes a really great all-round business person. Yeah. So it's just really important to talk about that. And one of the things that both you and I are really passionate about is the fact that there are women who are starting up businesses and who are spending big and doing a lot of things to try and get things going, but they are still stuck. There is still something missing for them. So let's talk about that. Yeah. So what are some of the things to keep in mind from the very beginning? So if you were to talk to, say you were talking to me and I was just about to start up, or I had started up, what is something that what's some advice that you would give to someone in that position straight away?
Yep. Okay. So number one is understand the psychology of spending. And this is something I've been reading into and studying a lot recently. So it's all top of mind for me. But there has been a study done that shows that when you buy something that's meant to give you a benefit or outcome over a period of time, you actually experience the emotions of having achieved that just by buying the thing. If you buy a course that tells you you're going to make 6K in 6 months, the minute you click that buy button, you experience the same energetic shift as if you had just achieved a 6-figure month or whatever it might be, right?
Yep.
So sometimes we're hungry, and marketers know this. So sometimes we're hungry for this thing. It's the same with weight loss programs. People who sign up for gyms achieve the same emotional feeling as if they'd been a member of the gym for 6 months, and whatever they visualize that joining this gym means to them, they get instant gratification by spending the money. It's like, I just bought 10 kilos weight loss. Woo! Right? Yeah. And so reality sets in a little bit after that, and they realize, actually I have to do the work for it. And so that low occurs, and we look for the next thing to buy. We don't actually see that thing through. So understanding that psychologically, particularly when you're first starting out in business, explains why so many people get caught up in buying the $10,000 website, the $15,000 mastermind, this course, that course, the Infusionsoft, the best of the best. Spend as though you mean to go on. And yet they're not getting the results. And every single person out there is saying, well, if you buy my thing, you'll get the results. And they know, the online business world has existed for long enough now that marketers know what mistakes people are making out there, and they include that in their marketing. Yeah. So they'll say, look, I know that you've spent money already. I know that you've tried really hard, but what's missing is this secret thing. Yeah. And so if you buy this, it will be different. But for most people, they buy it and it's not different.
Yeah.
And so I think the big thing to understand when you're first starting out in business is that it's not only possible to make money without spending money. I think it's an important sort of point to go over. It's a hump to go over. It's like get the monkey off your back kind of thing, to prove to yourself and to prove your business model and your market desire.
Yeah.
So if you can't sell $100 for people to come and spend an hour with you without all the flashy bells and whistles, chances are you haven't quite nailed your own value proposition, your own messaging, and therefore you can throw all the money in it at the world into Facebook ads, websites, pretty photos, a gorgeous backdrop. I haven't got mine up today. I've got backdrop envy. You can throw all the money in the world at that, but that won't solve the problem, because the problem is you can't sell your stuff yet.
Yes.
And so I'm big into lean business, because for me, it's the smart way to ensure that before you spend, you know you're going to be able to make money. You know that it's going to result in you creating an income. Yeah. And I think, like, why not? If you can make like I've had people come through working with me or doing my program, and they can make $5,000 before they have a website. If you can make $5,000 before you have a website, why wouldn't you want to do that?
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you want to prove that business model? So,
because I mean, I think a lot of people hide behind the stuff.
Yeah.
So they'll hide behind the website and hope that the website sells for them, or they'll hide behind the branding and hope that the branding will sell, or the copywriting, or whatever it is. Anything to avoid selling and asking for money. Well, I mean, that's just my experience, you know, with working with women, is that they will surround themselves with the stuff, hoping that the stuff will sell on their behalf.
Do it for them. And that's why a lot of people, when they're in startup mode, get really drawn into the idea of creating courses as well. Because when they see other people selling courses, they don't meet the person. The website does, like, they see the ad, they see the video, then they get taken through this sales funnel, then they get an email, and then they see the sales page and they think, oh, I don't even have to be involved in this process. It can all do it for me.
Yeah.
But actually, all of those things, those stages that you went through for that person to bring you to that sales page, that was refined either through lots of FaceTime with people and practicing it face to face, or lots of money. And so you kind of have those two things. Either you talk to your target market and you understand them really well, and you get out there and you work out what it takes to sell to them, and you practice the selling, or you throw tens of thousands of dollars a month at Facebook ads and you practice that way. Yeah. And I didn't have if I had the tens of thousands of dollars to practice on Facebook ads, I probably would have tried it, right? Yeah. Because it feels so much more comfortable, but I didn't have that kind of money. So for me, I had to learn, well, how else can I check and test this messaging and get these people into my world if I don't have that tens of thousands of dollars? And every month, Facebook ads become more and more expensive. So it's now hundreds of thousands of dollars that I'm seeing people needing to spend in order to test all those sales pages, to test all that messaging. And a lot of it is like trial and error stuff. And I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to practice on trial and error stuff. And for most women starting a business, they don't have that either. Yeah,
but I think it's also very deceptive when you see that. Those people have been around for a while, and they have, this isn't where they started.
No.
You know, they built their tribe. And so therefore then the sales funnel works really well because people know, like, and trust them already, but they didn't start there. No. And I think that that's just a misconception that, well, I can just do that too without having done any of the groundwork, and that I can make billions as well. And you know, some of these people have been blogging for years and coaching for years and training for years and all of that kind of thing. So
and the ones that haven't had the money. They spend the money.
Yeah.
And it really is. It's one or the other. Yeah.
Now, there are some things that we should be spending our money on when we first start up. Okay, so you can start up with zero cash, I guess, very lean. Yeah. But do you think there are a few key things that you should be spending your money on when you're first starting out? And it doesn't have to be the $10,000 website, but what are like 2 or 3 things that are really important?
Yeah, I think the big return comes from, like, I talk about teensy investments to have a big return. So for example, I think that running webinars or having some connected way to teach people is a really powerful way to test your messaging when you first start out, and to get a room full of people that you can do the selling to, right? That you can make an offer to. And so buying a webinar platform or working with a webinar host can have a huge return on investment. You can spend, like my partner is on a save and he does hosted webinars. So I know his pricing is $125 and he will set up and run all the tech of the webinar. So you don't have to worry about that. You just turn up.
The best money ever spent.
Right?
Ever.
Like, best money ever.
I don't think I ever have or could ever now even contemplate running a webinar without
a host, right? Yeah. And like I get access to him for free, and I was like, I got it, and then I forgot to record my own webinar. Like anyway, but like I think that so long as you've got a really good strategy of how you're going to sell at the end, I think that can be a really good solid investment. And the whole like have the strategy at the end part, I do think it's important to have some sort of strategic support, whether that's working with a business coach or being part of a startup program where you get some face time with the person. Like I don't recommend buying Start Your Business and Make Your First 5K course if it doesn't have the opportunity for you to talk about your business idea and have someone reflect that back at you and help you from a strategy perspective, understand what that value proposition might be. But my takeoff program has that FaceTime. And I know that there are other startup courses out there where you do get that FaceTime. So I think having someone help you understand the lay of the land with the online business world and how you can take whatever your unique thing is and have a solid business strategy behind it, I think is a really good idea in that startup phase. But it doesn't need to be like, there are a lot of business coaches out there that it's $5,000 or it's $15,000 to start off. I think in startup mode, you are spending, that's way too much money to be spending on your strategy because you just need the basics. And so I would say between $1,000 and $2,000 is probably a good amount to spend for a good 3 months. So, you know, like I know that there are business coaches out there. It's like $1,500 for 6 fortnightly sessions with them. That is a good price to be paying to get that one-to-one FaceTime with someone who's already started their business, who's got some of the runs on the board and who can take you through that and hold your hand through that initial startup period. Because I see a lot of people, they have this amazing business idea. Like I did it myself, right? I was like, I'm going to do all courses. And my first course is going to be called Happiness Camp. I literally own the URL, happinesscamp.com, right? Because I was the happiest person I knew. And so I was like, and so I mapped out this course and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then I put all this stuff together. I bought the URL and I started going out and saying, do you want to be happier? And then crickets. And people were like, it's not your job to make me happier. Like, and like there was no, like, and also it was just because I was just like naturally a happy person. I understood a lot about what I was doing and I could put together some modules on how to be happier, but people don't like Google, how do I be happier? Right? They talk about their problem. And so Happiness Camp might exist one day, but what I realized really quickly was that you can go down the wrong path a long way and spend a lot of money before you realize, it's like running before you walk. You've got to walk before you run. You've got to have that kind of time practicing how you sell to people, getting comfortable with saying, this is what I'm worth, which is what you do when you sell services. And so, I do think that having a business coach or a strategist or doing a program where you get some face time with someone can be very, very valuable in that startup phase of your business. And like the rest of the tools, you can have a paid version or you can have a free version. Like MailChimp, you need to start a mailing list straight away. MailChimp is free when you first start it, or you can pay $10 a month for some of the bells and whistles if you're good with technology and you're actually going to use them. I think it's, if you're going to use them, $10 a month, that's okay. Like I'm cool with that. But there are other things where I just think like, I really don't think people need a website to get started, and you can spend a lot of time tweaking your Work With Me page and still not have any sales. And so I do recommend to people, leave it for a couple of months. Just leave it for a couple of months. Leave it
for a while. I think I've had 4 websites in 4 years and I still am working on my website.
And you will. You'll
because you change. It changes.
And if you're not making money in your business, you can't afford to make those changes as your ideas about what you're offering change and grow. to reflect how you change and grow as you move forward. The first 12 months of creating a business are an intense personal development activity. And when I first started my business, I was a feminist, but I was a little bit of an angry feminist. And so a lot of my branding kind of reflected that, you know, stuff you, we're doing it. It's just like power to this kind of thing. And as I've grown in this personal development journey, and I've, you know, grown to be more about the love and coming from the heart and all that kind of stuff, my messaging grows and how I feel. And when I first started my Facebook group, when people would jump in and spam, I'd be like, oh, you idiot, right? Like, not to them, but to myself. And so some of my posts into the group and some of the guidelines reflected that it was a little bit judgy. And that judgment has left my business and my brand. Now, if I had to update my website every time I had one of those shifts, I would have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on that. And so for me, that's a passive marketing tool. Your website relies on people coming to it. There are proactive marketing tools that you can use to be much more effective. And those ones generally just cost you time, not money. And I think it's worth investing some time in doing those things instead.
Yeah. And one of the most economical ways now, I mean, people have been blogging for years, but now it's so much about video and people wanting to see you. And that really costs nothing to jump on Facebook Live or to do something on YouTube and really getting your face, your name, your message out there. And I think that the more ranty you get, the more things you have to say that matter, that people go, hey, yeah, me too. You know, they're the things that catch on, rather than the fluffy kind of same generic message that so many coaches are teaching other coaches.
Yeah.
And again, we could talk about this forever, but I just want to ask you quickly, not all business coaches are created equal. And it seems to me, and probably to many people who are watching or listening today, that every man and his dog is suddenly a business coach. So please, let's talk about what makes a great coach and what people should be looking for when they're first starting out. Because as you progress, you know, you can work with the $5,000 coach, $10,000 coach, but probably not when you're first starting out, because their strategies are probably going to be too advanced. Even those masterminds are going to be too advanced for what you need. And your mindset isn't at that level yet.
And also, if you spend all of your money on your coach and you don't have the $5,000 that they then recommend for Facebook ads, you're not going to get the benefit anyway. Like a lot of coaches who work at that level, like I'm starting to work at that level now where people if they come to work with me, I'm saying you don't just need the money to be able to afford to work with me. You need the money to be able to hire a VA and pay for some Facebook marketing, because we're working at that level of strategy now. And so I do think that number one is pay attention to how they behave when you go through that sales process. So where did you find them? Did you find them because they did a crazy Facebook ad, and then you went through a funnel, and then you got 30 emails in 30 days, and then you if that's the complexity of their sales funnel, that's what they're going to teach to you. And so you may not actually be at that level where you're ready for that kind of thing. Also, I pay big attention to the way they speak to you and the language that they use. Are they behaving in a way that if you were on the other foot and you were expected to do what they just did to you, that you would just be like, oh, I'm not doing that, because that's what they're going to teach you, right? I've sat in coaching calls where the person has said, well, if you're not willing to make a decision today, then you're really not committed to your business. And instantly I was like, well, I would never say that to someone. So if you're going to tell me that that's how I have to treat my potential customers, we are not a match. And so I think the process that you go through as a customer or a client or a follower of that person is a huge indicator of whether they're the right fit for you. If they have a podcast and a YouTube channel and 100,000 followers on their Facebook page, if you're starting out, they are not the coach for you. If you get to know them through a Facebook group and they do a webinar, and at the end of the webinar they make a juicy offer and you're like, wow, this is quite interesting, and it's a nice short process and you feel really connected to them really quickly, that's the kind of person you want to be working with, because they've been able to use a connected strategy rather than a giant sales funnel strategy to bring you into their business, and you can do the same. You can have that low cost process. You can have that really connected process. I think also it's a mistake to go into some of the big groups and say, I'm looking for a business coach. Who would you recommend? Because you're asking all these people who you don't know how much money they have. You don't know about their situation behind the scenes. And so you can't know what is what recommendations are actually going to be a good fit for you. I would suggest going into some Facebook groups, checking out, like I love offer days and market days in Facebook groups, because I literally I'm checking out people that I might want to work with. And then I might want to refer people through who can't afford to work with me as well. I've got quite a few business coaches now that I refer people through to, because people can't afford to work with me, but that doesn't mean they don't get to have someone help them, right?
Yeah.
And so look through some of those things, follow some people, jump on their mailing list, look at the way that they treat you, and ask yourself, is that the same feeling? Is that the way I want to treat my peeps? Because we buy based on either one of two things, connection or admiration. So then you've got the know, like, and trust. Everybody needs that. I need to know you. I need to like you. I need to trust you. That can be built, and that can be marketed as well. People can create trust through marketing triggers and psychological triggers. But there's like two, kind of the feminine and the masculine, of why you would finally make that decision. One is, I admire you. You've got the flashy boat. You've got the sexy website. You've got the pretty photos. I want what she's having. And the other one is connection. I feel like I know you. I feel like we've got something in common. I feel like you get me, those types of things. So, and I feel like I can talk to you. If you're interested in working with a business coach, and you get in touch with them, and you get an autoresponder, and then an email from their team, and then a sent through some kind of thing that you have to do before you get to talk to them, is that what you want to do to potential clients when you're first starting out? No, it's not. So I think that there's you want to work with a coach that you can grow with, and who's just that few steps ahead of you, not way out there. Because I forget sometimes what it's like to work in startup, and I work with people who are in startup through my program, but that keeps me kind of connected into that space, because it can be a real tough thing. There's some things you have to get over when you're in startup mode. The people who have hundreds of thousands of dollars in their marketing budgets, they forget it, and they have their own process that they use now. And so that would be all of my advice.
Okay, perfect.
3 minutes of ranting.
Okay, so I'll get you to rant a little bit more. So what are the 3 things that people should not be spending on? So you said website. Yeah, and I agree with you. And especially when you're first, we've been at this for a while, and we've been in the online space for a while now. I think when you first come in, you have no concept of cost. So someone could tell you that it costs $15,000 for a website, and you go, oh, okay, well, I guess that's what it costs. So
I had a client who spent $30,000 on a website, and it said nothing. It was beautiful. It was so pretty, and she looked amazing in her photo shoot. But when I went through it, I was like, I don't know what you do. I don't know what problem you solve. I know you're a coach, but are you a coach for me? I don't know. Yeah. And so I was I
want to come back to that.
That was on a pretty business card, really.
Yeah. What you just said there is a really important point, and I want to come back to as soon as we go through these 3 things. Okay, so website, no.
Facebook ads.
Yep.
I think it's an expensive way to test your messaging. There are cheaper ways to do that.
Yeah.
And then I would say a passive program. So buying the year-long mastermind where you're in the room with 1,000 other people and you're not going to get any airtime with someone. I think some of those big programs, the testimonials are great, and there are exceptions to the rule, but those big programs by the big names now, whether it's about e-courses or getting started in business or being visible or creating that online fame factor, or even the starting up your business. If you're in the room with more than 50 other people, you will get no airtime, and you'll either get to a barrier that you can't overcome without one-to-one help, or you will get so far down the path of the wrong business that it will be really hard to come back from there. So they would be the 3 that I would say.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now I'm going to go back to that, what you just touched on, because I think that this is critical and we've got to talk about it.
Yeah.
There are so many people I see in your Facebook group, my Facebook group. You see them around, but I have no clue what they do. And, or they change a lot. You know, like they'll be a photographer one day, and then they're a life coach, and then they're a makeup artist, and then they're a, you know, then they're selling essential oils. And it's like, I'm confused. Yeah. So what do you say to people when they're starting out, and especially the people that say they're multi-passionate? What can they do so that people actually know what they do? I mean, I think that there's no doubting what I do, and there's no doubting what you do, but I don't think everybody is as cut and dry and clear as we are. So what can they do to become known for that thing? That's the go-to person for whatever, you know, for the thing that they want to be doing.
Yeah, and I think like using myself as an example, I help people all the way from startup all the way to, I've got this new program coming out. It's like pushing past 6 figures really quickly, right? So it's like this huge, it's so sexy. Anyway, no, it's not a sales pitch. Anyway, so I've got I work with everyone in that space. I do courses and launching. You talked about all my courses. But when I first started out, I started with people who were in startup mode, who wanted a one-to-one coach, and I helped them with social media marketing. And in the background, I would help them with their business model and their messaging, all that kind of thing. But what they thought they needed was help me work out this whole Facebook thing, because people are telling me I can make millions from Facebook and I don't get it. And so I helped them with content. I helped them with all the other things that meant that they had a meaningful business to share on social media. But I just went out and did offers, was like, have no idea what to post on Facebook, know that you can make lots of money from it, but you don't know how. Let's do a session together. And so you've got to start somewhere first. And when I talk to people, there are a couple of ways that I talk about. So all the people you can help is like a spectrum. There's preaching to the choir, and all the people who already know exactly what you're talking about, and like it can be like healing, coaching, business, money, right? The people, like if we look at your business, Sylvia, the preaching to the choir is the people who already use profit first, already have investments, already paying themselves well, and building up their businesses, like preaching to the choir kind of people. And then there's the I don't know why you exist, and I don't know why I would need you, and I'm not really that interested right now. Like there's a spectrum. Yeah. And so when I talk to people, I say, find somewhere in the middle. Right? You don't want to be trying to convince people that your modality is powerful and it can help people and da-da-da-da-da-da. And then you also don't want to put yourself in competition with, you know, like trying to steal people away from other kinesiologists or whatever it might be, because you know that they're like, you did somewhere in the middle where it's like, I understand the power of energy. I agree with, you know, that those kinds of principles. I've had a couple of kinesiology sessions before, but I haven't really found the person that resonates with me. Aim for those people, because they're ready, willing, and able to buy, and they kind of get it a little bit, but you can bring them further along that journey. And then there's also, with the multi-passionate thing, you have a heap of tools at your disposal. And that's why you feel multi-passionate. You're good at this, you're good at that, you've got this behind you, you've got this, you can use this coaching technique, this NLP, blah, 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 blah. But you are not your tools. Everyone can have those tools. You are you, and you help people who need you. And so I think the best way to really focus down is to focus on one problem or challenge, or one aspiration that you help people resolve or achieve, or you can have both of those things come together. So the problem people had with me was they knew that they needed to use social media, but they didn't know how. And the aspiration that they had was they wanted to make money from social media. And I just brought those two, like, look how microscopic those things are. Yeah. And now I have a full service business coaching company, and I'm, you know, in multiple 6 figures land, going for the million this year. Yeah. But if I didn't focus on those little things, if I just kept saying, I'll do whatever you want me to do, I help you with your business, people would not have resonated with that. They would not have. And even when I first started out, I was like, I work with men or women. And I'm like, as I said, angry feminist, totally needed to work only with women. But I resisted that. But the minute I started talking about women, I had a couple of dudes who were like, well, you're a bit reverse sexist, as if that's a thing. I didn't respond. But then there were some women who were like, thank God. And the more I got into that, the more I saw that my target market resisted selling themselves because it felt gross and it's a masculine energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so like all of that stuff wouldn't have happened if I didn't go narrow. So you've got to go narrow. I say to people, does your client work for someone else or work for herself? And they say, oh, it could be either. No, because when you work when you speak to those people, you speak to them in very different ways. The avenues that you use to market those people are very different. And so you need to make a decision just for now, not forever.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest, like, if you just think about it with that, just for now, not forever, then it helps you to kind of let go of that FOMO. It's like you have this fear of missing out on clients because you're in startup mode and you will take anything you can get.
Yeah.
And so, but in essence, what you're doing is actually making your message vanilla and you're not speaking to anyone. And you just get into that cycle of desperately chasing people around the internet who might be interested in working with you because you haven't stood in your space and said, no, I'm working with these people. And this is because the more specific your messaging becomes to those people, the more they say, oh, she gets me. Oh, she gets it. You want people to feel like you've been peeking in their windows last night. You understand them that well. And you're speaking so specifically to them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And also like, you know, people come up with some amazing titles for themselves. That just, you just go, what? If someone has to go, what the hell is that?
Yep.
Then that's an issue.
I call that sparkly words. Like you've got the sparkliest words possible to describe your thing. They make up these job titles themselves so that they're so beautiful and unique. And
no one understands what it means.
All learning modalities, all learning methodologies. Like if you think sell me learning cycle, anything where people need to learn about you, because that's what you want them to do, they need to be able to relate it to something they already know.
Mm-hmm.
And so if people can't relate what you call yourself to something that, if they have no frame of reference for what you're talking about, a Akashic records clearer, if they don't know what that is, they will not follow. They will not, it's too far away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you can have that as a tool, but you need to talk to her in the language she uses to describe the problem she is facing right now. And the problem she is facing right now is not, I think something bad happened to me in a past life. Right? No, what is showing up now? I'm sabotaging myself. I like feel like I'm panicked all of the time and I don't know why, right? If you think about how does she describe the challenge and what is that specific problem or what is that ambition that she wants to achieve, the short, like just the, you know, I do a lot of target market research interviews. I talk to people all the time, like, what's your challenge? And there comes a point where they go, you know what, if I could just, everything would be okay.
Yeah.
So that is exactly the ambition that I need to be speaking to. If I could just find a way to talk about what I do in a meaningful way, right? Mm-hmm. So my next offer is, we're going to help you talk about what you've got to offer in a meaningful way. And that every single person who has that frustration instantly resonates with that message. And the more specific
without the bells and whistles.
Without the bells and whistles and all of those sorts of things. In the takeoff program, for the 3 months that people are working through the program, they are not allowed to give themselves a job title. Because that's not your job. Your job is not to give yourself a job title. Your job is to get out there and solve a problem.
Yes.
Talk about the problem, talk about the solution or the ambition, and go out there and get ranty about that. And the job title is irrelevant. It's the same as a website. It's irrelevant.
Take a bow. Because it's really frustrating for me. I can't tell you the amount of times people have come to me saying, I want a budget, because a budget's going to solve, all their problems. But it is about that, finding what they say. They're not waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning going, shit, I have to get a budget. You know what I mean? They're not. They're just, so figure out what it is that they're saying to themselves. Because I think a lot of the time people are focusing on what someone is saying outwardly rather than what they're saying inwardly.
Yeah.
So focusing on that. Oh my God, we're going to be here all day. Dear God. The next question I have is about money goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a big juicy subject because a lot of people will say, aim for the stars. You can, if you believe and you can manifest 7 figures, in 6 months, because, if you have that self-belief, if you have that faith, the universal power, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you say to people about setting goals when it comes to setting realistic targets as opposed to big, humongous, goals that they possibly may one day achieve in the future?
Yeah.
When they're starting out, what do you say to them?
Okay, so when I'm working with people, particularly up until about they've hit the 6 figures or 200,000 a year, I say to them, it is pointless in setting a money goal more than a year in advance, because a lot changes in a year. Your capacity to earn could go huge in a year, or you could realize that your business is a slow burn. So first of all, let's set the time frame. Yes, you can have that vision board of being a millionaire and being on the Forbes list. I've had it all my life, from being 7 years old and discovering there was a list of rich people. I wanted to be on it, right? At the time, it was because I wanted to have every color of Play-Doh. My ambitions of why I want to be on that list are a little bit different these days. But, yes, you can have that big vision, but that's a picture. That's all it needs to be. You don't have a plan of how it's going to get there in detail. You don't know what's going to unfold. It is that belief in that universal something's going to happen and it's all going to come together. But when it comes to actually setting strategic goals in your business, I do think that there are 2 types of people. There are the people for whom going for that giant thing and not making it, it's no big deal. I got close, woohoo, look at me go. And there are people for whom going for that giant big thing and not being a third of the way there, a third of the time in the future, it's I might as well give up, I'm not going to make it. And that's 2 very different personality types. And I think that you can pretend that you're that person, but really you're not. You can, and so it's about getting to know yourself. And I think the best way to do that is to do it in the short term. So maybe set a week target, a 1 week target. You set yourself the challenge of doubling last week's income, and notice every single day how your thoughts and feelings unfold about that target, about your business, about what it means about you. And if you are spending a lot of time criticizing yourself, criticizing your business, getting frustrated, in tears, I don't think that the aim for the stars, you'll get to the moon strategy is necessarily the right choice. There are people for whom small things, tick them off as you go. If you're a to-do list addict naturally, then maybe short-term incremental goals are the way to go. Yeah. If you are a, big, I'll end up rushing towards the end and get there, or maybe I won't, but it doesn't matter because I know that if that's you, then sure, try yourself out with some big goals. I'm the big goals kind of person. But I temper this with knowing that there's an appropriate time and place for both. Yeah. And so one of the things that I learned from you, darling Sylvia Churchier, is that it's all well and good to have these gigantic goals and not get there, but you also need to know what your minimum is. So, when we first started working together, when I hired you to work with me, I thought I needed $3,500 a month to get by. And when we actually worked out, you're giggling, because when we worked out, that $3,500 a month was my business expenses, and it didn't even cover all of my rent. I don't know where I was coming from with this $3,500 that I needed to get by, being the sole low income earner in our relationship as well. And so I was having these $10,000 months and going, hey, look at me. And so I was spending money willy-nilly and having a great time, and then wondering why I didn't have the money together for my mortgage payment. And then hang on, I need more. And so actually sitting down and working out how much do I need to pay my mortgage and my debts, start paying chunks off the credit card instead of the minimum payment, putting some side money for savings, paying my business expenses, paying my living expenses, being realistic about how often I go out to dinner and how much money I want to live on in my lifestyle. my minimum was 11,000.
Not even close, was it?
It's a very fun day for me. So I was having a $10,000 month and thinking I had $6,000 profit to blow. And actually I hadn't met my minimum for the month. And so it was creating this weird dynamic for me where I felt like I was being super successful, but I wasn't actually taking care of business. And so I think that there's those, like, it's go for the star stuff, but know your minimums. And I think like working with someone to help them like really work out what your minimum is going to be very powerful. And so as soon as I discovered that with you, that was my new zero. And all of a sudden, from an energetic and a business strategy perspective, my goals were like 15, 20K a month. And it only took 3 months for me to get there. And yet, because I was like, you know, if you think about all the mindset stuff underneath, I was triggering my guilt around having more money than I needed when I wasn't earning more money than I needed. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I was thinking so successful, $6,000 profit, all for me. Woo, I've got all this money. And so I was triggering this like upper limit thing around, well, I don't need that much. But it wasn't true because it wasn't grounded in reality. Yeah. And so I do like my new zero now, like since then I've taken on more permanent team members. I have more marketing budget. We pay more in rent. I've moved into a new place. Still have my mortgage, but I'm paying more off. My new minimum is $20,000 a month. But I wouldn't have been, and so my stretch targets are 50K a month. Like I want to have a 6-figure month, you know, those sorts of things are coming. But if I had gone for that back then, every time I got to 10 grand, I'd be like, well, that's enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes you're like setting those big goals. It can be inspiring and it can be uplifting, but it could also trigger mindset stuff that you don't need to trigger yet. Like there's no point in triggering that yet. So I think, yes, there's like different personality types. When you go to set those money goals, like you won't know what you really are until you spend that practice of every single day tapping into, how do I feel about my business and myself today? How do I feel about my income that I achieved today? How do I feel about the fact that I've made no money? Or how do I feel about the fact that I just made $6,000 today? Yep. And now I have to spend the next 6 months delivering on that thing that I just sold for $6,000. How do I feel about that deep down? And so until you spend that time really noticing those thoughts, you won't have a lot of clarity around what type of goal setting works for you. But also, if you are that kind of person who has the like big stretch things, I think it really does pay to know your minimums and know them in really intense detail. Yeah. And have the plan of how you're going to hit that minimum first.
Yeah. And understand that you have to start dealing with your money mindset from early on, because as you said, if you suddenly sell a $5,000 coaching package by accident or, you know, because it just so happened, how do you deal with that? Because a lot of people think that's what they want, but then when it happens, they go into massive freak out mode.
Yeah, absolutely. Really and then it results in they spend hours over delivering every second day. Yeah. They let down all their boundaries with those people. They start to burn themselves out. They sabotage the long-term business building. So they don't build their list. They don't do webinars anymore. They don't continue to build that sales funnel out. They don't look at the long-term vision of their business because they've triggered something in their mindset about needing to work for the money they've already made, or needing to deliver or over-deliver because they don't actually believe that they're worth that much, or this work is too easy, so I'm going to make it more hard for myself. And so I absolutely agree about, you know, really paying attention to that money mindset and starting to work on it from day one, for sure. Yeah.
Well, I could just keep talking to you for the next 2 hours. I'm going to ask you one more question.
Yep.
Just to finish and round up. But it's, what for you in your line of work do you see as the biggest anxiety causer, particularly for startups? Obviously, that's what we're talking about today. And what is that one thing that they could do to avoid that from early on, so that they don't have to go being dragged through the mud?
I think the anxiety causer is the need to look like something you're not. So the need to have this flash, like, look at me. I don't have my backdrop right now. So I put my beautiful progress up behind me. I could have like panicked and gone, I can't do it. I don't have my perfect backdrop, right? You don't need to look like you've got a 6-figure business in order to achieve a 6-figure business. And so that anxiety comes from not feeling like it's good enough, not feeling like your business is good enough, or you are good enough, or your photos are good enough, and that kind of thing. And I think the way to overcome that is to just look at it all like a fun experiment. Just take the action, do some things, experiment with some things. Don't experiment with your money, experiment with your time, right? Just play around with it. Make some videos, do some Facebook Lives, knowing that when you're in startup mode, that's when the least number of people are going to see it. So it's the least amount of pressure on you to get it right. People try and jam so much into their videos and their blogs. They're trying to tell everyone everything in the first video, thinking that their entire audience are going to somehow magically see that one video. The first 30 videos I made in my business don't exist on the internet anymore. Right? But I just made them. I just did them. And at the time, they served a really beautiful purpose. People got to know me. I didn't have the best photos. I didn't have the sexy website. I just got out there and just experimented with my messaging, with my offers. You know, and don't worry about needing to have it perfect, having that perfect sparkly job title, that perfect logo, that perfect website. Just let go of all of that and focus on being of service and experimenting with how you can offer that service. And you will have much more success and you will have a lot less anxiety.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wish I'd known you when I first started out.
If you had, I probably wouldn't have been this articulate because I was still experimenting with my message.
That's exactly right. You know, I think that it's very easy to see. You know, we're talking about backdrops and photos and stuff like that. You know, I'm 4 years in. I don't know how many years in you are. And I think it's very easy. I think women really get caught up in the comparisonitis. And I know it happens to everyone. It happens to me too. But, you know, it's just about doing you rather than trying to copy someone else or feeling inadequate because you're not at that level. But you have to think about where those people started, you know, and where they are now.
Yeah, exactly. When I first started, I'll be 4 years in June. And when I first started making videos, I did them out on my deck because my house was, I was in a unit. It was so dark and dingy and there's no way to get light. So I went out onto my veranda. I lived in a fairly quiet street, but my first few videos have cars going in the background. You can hear the car going up the street. I was like, I'm just gonna be quiet while the car goes past, or I stopped and edited that little bit out. And the wind blew my hair up and it went whoa over my face. And I was like, and I just kept going. And people compared to me, like, and they had all edits in them, right? I loved hyper editing my videos. I was like, swipe right, swipe left, swipe this, swipe that, fade in, fade out. And now I record all my videos in one take. And people say, oh, I wish I could record my videos in one take like you. I'm like, I've been ranting about this stuff for years.
Yeah.
And I ranted about this stuff for years on camera, on video, and then edited out the bits that I didn't like when I first started. And you can do that if you want to, or you can just retake it, just do it again. Now that I do my videos as one take, I actually will record the same video, sometimes 3 times until I get it right, because my blogs are about 10 minutes. And so 30 minutes of talking and not having to do any editing is like heaven to me. Whereas like doing 20 minutes of talking and editing 10 minutes of it out, no, I don't really like that. So like, I still don't get it perfect. And you don't see the stuff that doesn't work behind the scenes. I've still, in the last 12 months, I've probably launched 3 or 4 things that have been absolute flops.
Yeah.
Like, and I totally muffed up my marketing strategy, but it was because I was experimenting with something I found somewhere else. So I had seen someone else do something like that, and I thought, I'll see if I can apply it to my business and do it that way. And it didn't work. And I was like, well, okay, on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And so, but a lot of us make it mean that we're not meant to be cut out for this. There was this awesome study, I can never remember the university, but they did like in the PhD students, and there's like a halfway point in the PhD where there's this like really intense, hard course that you need to do. And when the men get to that point, they're like, whoa, this is getting serious. And when the women get to that point, they're like, I never should have signed up for this. I can't do this. I'm not cut out for it. And it's this like we apply so much meaning about what it means about us when something gets hard or something doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it's a really important, and it's hard to do, but it's important to just go, nah, didn't work, I'll try something else.
Didn't work, I tried. Yeah, I know that there's a business, like a Thought Leaders business school that I was looking into, and they said, you'll put out like four or six things in the year, and half of those won't work. We're just letting you know. So you don't get to, do the mindset work and feel bad in that moment and then move on, because that's just how it is. And I think in business, we think that anything we put out there is suddenly going to, bring in the big bucks. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. And it's not a reflection on you as a person, as a business person or anything like that. It's just keep going, head down, bum up, and keep going.
And I think, just final point, sorry, I'll shut up soon. I think also this is where some of that NLP or a little bit manipulative marketing comes into play, because people who sell the $5,000 course, they want you to believe that you'll make $15,000 in the first go, because then you'll buy it, right? And so actually it's a little bit of a faith in your target market or faith in your own business to be able to have the confidence to say, you know what, what they said, you know what, you're going to run 6 things in the year and only half of them are going to work. And so, but what it does is it means that everyone goes into that program with their eyes open, not freaking out about how they're going to make their next dollar from it, not in a poverty mindset. So they'll actually have a better success rate of their students, because the students are coming in with the right attitude. And so we see the other way of doing it with that poverty mindset, that scarcity mindset, that this is the thing that's going to solve your problem in the marketing. People go in, the first thing doesn't work. They make it mean that they're not cut out for business, or they get angry at the course creator, or they're like, this doesn't work, or blah, blah, blah. And then there's only a small percentage of people who actually make it to the point where it's going to give them return on investment. And then that marketer uses those case studies, puts them on the sales page, and they're the ones that are convincing you to buy things. And so it creates this cycle, and you end up only having this top layer of people who actually get the results. So, I also think we're seeing this shift in marketing where people are actually being more upfront about, the results that you get depend on what you put in, but also it's going to require some shift, and it's going to require some experimentation. And maybe it won't work out the first time, but the important thing is to stay in the room and to keep going. And so you might end up with a lot less people buying your thing. And I do that too, right? My takeoff program now, I don't have as many people buying it as I could, but I know that the ones who buy it come into it not expecting that they're going to, get the $10,000 in the first 5 weeks or whatever. They jump in knowing that it's going to be experimenting. It's going to be working on this stuff together. But they also know they get me for as long as they need me to help them continue in that journey and help them stay in the room. And so I'm even seeing, when I first started, I would take anyone into that program, right? And so I had some people who didn't finish. I had some people who were like, nah, that didn't work. And they went off and bought the $10,000 yearly thing to go and work with the big name, right? And in hindsight, I would have been better off not having those people in the program. And now I don't attract those people, and the results are amazing. And it's better for me. It's better for the people in there. And so, I just think that there is a bit of a shift, and people are looking for more of that honesty and realisticness in the marketing that we use and the way that we talk about our programs. And so I'm happy to come to the party on that, because I think that's what I'm looking for as well.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm all about keeping it real with everything. And I think people are getting savvier now anyway. They're less, hopefully they're less attracted to the flash and more attracted to something authentic and something real, and something that can really help them. So
yeah.
It was so lovely talking to you. I hope that the people who are, in that startup, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you just started your business yesterday. Sometimes it's even within the first year, it's, you're still trying to get things going and get things moving. And I think that they will have benefited greatly from your fabulous information today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a mindset that stays with us. When you start with those foundations of doing it lean, testing the messaging first, experimenting, get back on the horse quickly, you know, those sorts of things. You start from that foundation, that serves you all the way through. I still operate from that perspective to this day, and I will still when I'm a multimillionaire, I'm sure, because that's what makes me human. And that means that I have no pressure on anything to perform or be perfect, or, you know, even this new program that I was just totally dropped in there. Like it's all just an experiment. I'm still interviewing people to see if it's something that people are looking for. I'm getting really excited about it, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's, you know, I will analyze what I can do from a strategy perspective, and I can also be detached enough to say, it's not the right time for this thing. And
not to go, oh, there's something wrong with me and why can't I make this work, which is tends to happen a lot.
And I think also for people, once they get into this level as well, like once you're a bit more established, like there was a tipping point for me about a year after I started my business where I was like, I'm never doing anything else. This is my thing. Like I found my zone with this. And even though I might have an $800 a month, which I did, it actually increased my resolve. I was like, well, that's not good enough. I want to do this forever. This is definitely my thing. I've found my zone. I've found the peeps I want to hang out with. So I started asking more powerful questions. What do I need to do to make sure that this doesn't happen again? How do I ensure that my financial security through this business, because this business is my thing and I'm going to do what it takes to make it work. And so I do think for those more established people as well, there is that tipping point where you no longer make it mean your business is never going to succeed. You might make it mean you're an idiot, or, you know, you've got all these things about yourself that you're not good enough, but you move on from that fairly quickly because you know that you can be of service and you can really help and support people if you really focus and find that right strategy. So
and if those things don't work out, and being able to move on, and I think the place where people get really down and out is if they've sunk massive amounts of money into that next big thing that's going to suddenly help their business take off. So if you're experimenting and you're keeping it lean, then I think you can move on
a lot
faster than suddenly if you've sunk $20,000 into something and you just think, and that's where I think people can.
That is huge. So you can prevent that a lot by adopting the lean principles and really thinking before you spend. Absolutely. Yeah.
So Natasha Corbin, where can people find you?
You can come and find me at my website. It's tashcorbin.com.
It's a nice fancy new website, by the way.
It's so pretty. I'm having the whole, like, I need to change the photos now though.
That's right.
It's been a particularly puffy time in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite so puffy as that anymore. So, you know, that's definitely something that's on the radar. But tashcorbin.com, and also the Facebook group. So if you're a woman in business and you want to be part of the Lady Posse, the community, there's 18,000 of us, but we are so connected. It's just like the coffee shop has just expanded. It's still an amazing conversation to be part of. And I don't understand how that works with 18,000 people, but it does.
Yeah. You had to buy the coffee shop next door and the one next door to that and the one next door to that. It was But
someone said to me, you know, your coffee shop is like as big as the Suncorp Stadium now, right? Like you're holding thousands of people. It's
a beautiful group.
It is a beautiful group.
And the amazing connections and friendships that are established, you know, out of that. And, you know, it has been, you know, quite amazing. I know people, you know, find their tribe and find their people, which is so critical when you're first starting out. There's nothing worse than trying to go at this alone and only having your business coach to talk to once a month or something.
Yeah. And also like having that feeling like everyone that you talk to is trying to get something out of you as well.
Yeah.
Whereas I think it's just a really genuine group where people just really do want to help each other and support each other. And I think if you go in with the attitude of wanting to help others, then you come out being served, because it's, you know, you attract what you give. So
cool.
You can find the group by going to tashcorbin.com/group. And
all the links will be down below this video.
Okay.
Somehow, magically, they will appear.
Magically. The power of the internet.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm sure you'll get lots of questions and feedback about this session, which has been really super juicy. Thank you so much for your time.
So juicy. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.